The fox, they say, once had an elegant walk, for which the other animals loved him. One day, he saw a prophet striding along and decided to improve upon what was already beautiful. He set out walking, but could not match the prophet's gait. Even worse, he forgot his own. So he was left with the unremarkable way that the fox walks today.
So yeah, basically a lot of people ask me how life was then. So here it is. My old home smelled of good birth, boiled red beans, kernel oil, and hand-me-down poetry. Its brick whitewashed walls widowed by first paint, the tin rooftop humming songs of promise while time is locked into demonic rhythm with the leaves. The trees had the wind hugging them, loving them a torturous love, bugging when it was over and done. The round cement pot kept the raindrops cool, neighbors and dwellers spattering the pool, kids playing football with a sanded sock. We had what we got, and it wasn't a lot. No one knew they were poor. We were all innocent, degrees judge me. The country was combusting with life like a long hibernating volcano with a long tail of success like J-Lo. Farmers, fishers, fighters, even fools had a place in production. The coral reefs make you days in reflection. The coastal line was the place of seduction. The women walked with grace and perfection. And we just knew we were warriors too. Nothing worried us too, we were glorious, boom!
Kanan, born Kanan Warsame, is a Canadian Somali immigrant, activist, and recording artist. Making his way onto the scene in the 2005 release of his debut studio album, The Dustyfoot Philosopher, the hard-hitting protest music of the young and hungry rapper took Kanan from the streets of Roxbury to all across the world. There he would acquire insights and polish that would elevate his brash and energetic debut with a reflectiveness and longing that would allow him to cross over onto the pop stage. This essay will cover the story of one of Somalia's greatest artists, his unlikely rise, fall, and redemption. So, let's dive right in. The Somali Civil War occurred in 1991 following the dissolution of the government.
Saeed Barre caused violence, oppression, civil war, many factions, many groups, all fighting for power. The central government collapsed. Somalia became a failed state. Many civilians were killed. Mohammed Farah Aidid would not cooperate with the United Nations. The United States sent troops to take members of his team, try to create peace.
Yeah, but it didn't create peace, did it?
No. Battle of Mogadishu started when 2 helicopters came.
Wait, is this fucking Black Hawk Down?
Black Hawk Down.
It was under this backdrop that the Dustyfoot Philosopher penned his debut. There's a frantic, almost desperate energy to the album. There's a gap that the artist must bridge, and he wastes no time. From the opening track Wash It Down, where we're introduced to a meditation on the ills of Western life.
Releasing your tension, distress and disorder is big in America. Stephanie, Erica, both of them suffer from living in hurry, cause living is very competitive, hassle and credit.
The Stress and Disorder, where he describes his home country as a boiling pot, the world without justice that wouldn't let his voice be heard.
This is the therapy needed, so use it. Music is water, you know what my proof is? People need music like they need excuses. People need water like Kanye needs Jesus. So wash it down, 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 wash it down.
This powerful intro to his work is also an introduction to the salve for the pain of his origins.
You joined a gang and you were arrested 15 times for...
Yeah, don't do that at home, kids. My own brother spent most of his time in Canada in prison. Police used to come regularly ransack my mother's home. Do you know what it feels like to lose a friend again and again, again, again? The bitter, the sinner, the killer, the poet, the river, the blood within him that's flowing. I kept a good spirit about Canada, which is why people see me as the artist that they see me as. We start riots by burning car tires, they looting, and everybody starts shooting. Bullshit politicians talking about solutions, but it's all talk, you can't go. But beneath all of that, there was a lot of anger in what was happening to us, and particularly to us. There was nothing I could explain to my downtown Lakeshore friends. It was just Rexdale. My mother slips on the ice and her back is weak, and I feel like a failure, a mute in the age of speech. Look at me, yo, look at me, look me dead in the eyes, and don't flinch, cause you're an accomplice to the great white lies. I can't even begin to express how I break down and stress. I gotta live to tell it, give me a bulletproof vest side.
They say an artist has a lifetime to write their debut, and we're given a lifetime of struggle, anger, depression, but most importantly, hope in this album.
Me without a voice. Imagine my music and everything that you heard in those songs.
I'm walking and talking and boxing my shadow. I hate you, I hate this, I hate you, I won't hate you, offend me, I wait you, so don't sleep. I hate you, my skin needs to feel the sand, the sun, I'm tired of the cold goddamn so
bottled up in one person with no way to express those things.
But please, never let him see you down, smile while you're bleeding. Smile when you're struggling, smile when you're in jail, smile when you're dead broke, and the rent's due. Harder the struggle, the deeper the trouble. Come out of the bubble, I'll teach you to cuddle with demons inside me. But demon is not me, these demons inside me, they got me. They stop me from sleeping and eating and keeping it even. And even my reason for breathing is seasons.
You know, what kind of person would that be? So I really was lucky that music kind of came to my rescue.
The need to connect his story to anyone who will take the time to listen is especially true of K'naan. And like the griots of West Africa, it's not his story that he's pressed to tell.
What I love most about my birth country, Somalia, is the incredible and profound respect that they have for language. That's what makes or breaks a characteristic of a person, is how eloquent they can be.
No sooner are we given this meditation on his chosen art form before the undulation of Somali aunties blares into our eardrums. He melds the progressive and forward-thinking lyrics with patterns and rhymes of one of Somalia's greatest poets, showing he's not here to pave a way, but continuing the footsteps of those who came before him.
I was born and raised in a place where the tone of flame would blaze, where the foreigners not embrace, where they warn you jog and pace, where the lowness low at eight, and the corners slow with the chase, with the twist and turn in the maze with a pitch.
Even the moniker Dusty Foot Philosopher isn't his, but his cousin and friend Soviet, who died during the war.
You know, my closest friend, and got killed. And the way that I used to see him, he was like the Dusty Foot Philosopher. They talk about things that well-read people do, and they've never read. They've never been on a plane, but they can tell you what's beyond the clouds. And that's who the Dusty Foot Philosopher is.
The cousin who comes up often in his work.
Planned it to the last detail, except the plane got derailed, cause there wasn't enough money for the plane tickets. How bitter when my mother had to choose who to take with her. So my cousin got left in the war, and that's just hard to record.
In this way, the listeners are introduced to a world that, for the most part, is unfamiliar. However, K'naan's ability is to make us grow in concern for the plight of not only the Somali community, but the oppressed everywhere. His life's work has been making that connection, by showing us that, in spite of how different our homes might look, they are our homes all the same. And that yearning for the comfort of your people and land is something that's true of any person. And when we lose that, we lose a part of ourselves. And for many, it means losing their way.
If I was gonna be free, I'd have to change my name. Mama, don't feel shame. Somebody call me refugee.
That was my truest voice. My continent's angst in a personal story.
How can you teach your kids to love when it's killing their memorizing?
When I sang, my audience wouldn't just hear my music, they would see geography. And yes, it made me well known. Interestingly, the ensuing success of Troubadour saw K'naan follow the arc of the poet he spoke of in his first album, from his song In the Beginning. The arc of the poet who falls for the temptings of fame and wealth. The poet who loses his tongue after acquiring a taste for worldliness. In this way, following one of his strongest works came his album, God, Country, or The Girl. K'naan himself describing the process as the beginning of losing his way, with studio interference and catering to popular demand. So in the end, I had not made my Marley, or my Dylan, or even my own K'naan. I had made an album in which a few genuine songs are all but drowned out by the loud siren of ambition. Fatima had become Mary, and Muhammad, Adam.
His name was Adam. When his mom had him, dad was a phantom, never took a look at him.
That Faustian bargain of industry success at the price of your message, the limbo where art meets commerce that houses many a soul tempted by the wiles of status and fame.
My wife and I, there's a hyphen I sometimes feel like there's a knife in line, ready to cut off our last lifeline. And who's to blame? It's never easy, of course, but I'm the only one bringing up the divorce.
My lyrics should change, my label's executive said. Radio programmers avoid subjects too far from fun and self-absorption. And for the first time, I felt the affliction of success. When I walked away from the table, there were bruises on the unheard lyrics of my yet-to-be-born songs. A question had raised its hand in the quiet of my soul. What do you do after success? And what must you do to keep it? Going radio silent since that album, K9 has kept his work close to the chest. We haven't heard of the artist in a while, and wild theories about his earnings from the Coca-Cola tour of Waving Flag cropped up in his absence. Many conjecturing his retirement after making millions on the road. For K9, the time has been spent in more of reflective output and branching out of his comfort zone. His failed pilot, Mogadishu, Minnesota, was met with controversy in the Somali community when the plot of radicalized Somali youth leaked to the public, an issue that holds some weight still today in the community and would have been worthwhile in exploring. And some singles have made their way to only zealous fans since that time, mainly features that provide some understanding into the mental state of the artist.
Beautiful and vandal on it. No more females. Well, how come my emails got notes on a scandal?
What I am is a fox who wanted to walk like a prophet, and now is trying to rediscover its own stride. I may never find my old walk again, but I hope someday to see beauty in the graceless limp back towards it.
I don't understand why Europe isn't fighting over all of these refugees to repopulate all of its depopulated, depressed industrial areas. Like Germany learned the lesson very quickly, I think, because they have confronted their history and they've got less of that baggage, and they've also got a very sensible leader. Yeah. But most of the other European countries have totally missed it when actually we need these people.
Recent developments in the socio-political sphere have awakened the protester from his slumber. Now more than ever, we're seeing the once bubbling vitriol against displaced people find home in the hearts of threatened nationalists. In this climate, K9 revisits a once-before slur that he has reclaimed. Once derogatory term, being a fob or fresh off the boat, is nothing to be ashamed of, and he hopes to inspire and empower the many who continue to face this reality today.
And so I don't know what it feels like to be from anywhere in particular.
Changing our names to fit in, or parents deciding to shun their past out of shame for their origins, or fear of their children being left out. K9's somber reflections find a home in these wanderers. It takes a stranger to understand a stranger.
Somebody call me refugee, and I wear it proudly. Refugee.
Even in the friendliest of melodies, something in my voice stirs up a well of history, of dark history, of loss's victory.
And no matter what I do, they will always walk with me. They will always walk with me.
As he ends his song with the repeated question, in this large world, is there a place for me in it? The answer to the question is both nowhere and everywhere. A refugee has a unique position to know the cruelty of losing their world, but the beauty and strength in knowing that we carry worlds within us, more than can be fit in dingy suitcases and moving boxes, worlds that would otherwise not be known to others. This beauty gives way to artists like K9 and many others like him who remind us of the resilience of the human spirit, who carry these tales in their heart for the world to hear, to learn from, and hopefully bring us even closer still. A refugee is one of the strongest questions that can be posed to a nation's humanity. How will you treat the downtrodden and brokenhearted? What will your answer be to those who ask this question by knocking on your door?
Means where your parents don't come with a certain education, or you don't come with wealth, and you're running from war. You have nothing. You're at the mercy of society.
And what is the potential that we are denying because of fear of losing material wealth?
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to speak about an extraordinary win at the Grammys this year. And no, I am not talking about Taylor Swift. Instead, I bring to your attention one of our own, the remarkable Somali-Canadian artist K9, who was awarded a Grammy for the Best Song for Social Change, honoring his 2023 single, Refugee. It won't surprise you, therefore, to know that Kenan came to Canada as a refugee from Somalia when he was a teenager. And like many other displaced people, that experience became a defining one for him and his music. He is a fierce advocate for refugees, and he has held the UNHCR to account for the organization's failure in Somalia. He notes that it takes both courage and desperation to abandon your home for somewhere else. He says, you set aside whatever it is that once made you an individual, a person, in order to join a kind of faceless mass. He objects to the everyday association we make with the word refugee, displaced, outcasts, faceless, voiceless. Instead, through music, he presents hope, joy, justice, and a sense of community. His music will not change the fate of the close to 110 million displaced people in the world, but it will give them hope and provide them with a role model as a young man to know that someone out there is rooting for them. Please join me in congratulating this extraordinary young Canadian for his contributions to music and social justice.
I grew up there in a place called Werdigle, which translates the river of blood. That neighborhood is probably the most dangerous neighborhood in the whole world. So I too was a refugee about 13 years ago when I left the river of blood at the height of the war.
This is an essay that I was excited about writing, mainly because of Kenan's positive representation of the spirit of protest and the shared experience of a refugee who longs for their home. From the moment we heard his album on a bootleg CD about 2 decades ago in the projects, to seeing him waving the Somali flag during the World Cup, he's unabashedly carried his home with him, and in the same way, his home has carried him.
Is with all the violence that we know about in Somalia, which is real, my most prominent memories aren't of the violent years. They're of Somalia's culture, just the collective culture of this country. A lot of people don't know that it's a place known as, the nation of poets. To document so much love, so much pride in the people and the eyes of the youth. You'll see when the video, when it drops, you're gonna fall in love with these people and with what we're saying, what we're trying to bring to your table, right? Yes.
The hopes of a country emptied of its people. Helpless refugees who still question some 30-odd years since the first flames of civil war were fanned, if there would ever be a future again in their motherland. It's one of the great tragedies of human history, claiming and displacing millions of lives. I can only imagine, to those who were flung from their once peaceful homes, what it would be like to once again feel the freedom in that salt-stained breeze. A return to the nation that boasts the longest coastline in Africa, as if it were once harbor against the world.
That the Western viewpoint saw Africa. It sees struggle minus dignity. We see dignity first, and then we see the struggle.
And like the illustrious poet puts it himself,
I'm from the deep-eyed people, the long-life people, the cross-legged people, the sunburnt people, chiseled chest people, the moon crest people, the deep mandem, the treacherous handsome, the see no evil, and no see people, the citadel plunders, infidel hunters, the Silk Road compass, the past life among us, the praise nebby people, the died petty people, a prejudiced people, a welcoming people, a merciless people, the friendliest of people, the forehead biggest, the faithful sinners, the misfortune winners, the casual bigots, the never been niggas, the fallen to lowest, the stained tooth poets, the sky god people, we don't die people, Wariya people, the naysay people, the ray people, a heyday people, late great people, Buratri people, real free people. Forget everything you've read. I was born and bred among these people.
So yes, the Somali people are a proud people, and they're a petty people, but in that way, they're every people. And I'm glad that refugees could find a champion in Kenan to tell our story, so that he could tell the story of all displaced people. It appears to me that the fox has found his trot once again, and if refugee is any indication, then I can't wait to see where his path will take him next.
This question of home becomes an ever-present, confusing theme in your life, always thinking about it. But in Somalia, or in the Somali language, the word for home is hoy, and the word for mother is hoyo. So the word home derives from the word mother, as in everyone's first home is their mother. And so I would like to dedicate this award to my home, my mother. Thank you.
It would take 1,000,000 years before he found this little town, and it wasn't that profound, the locals called it middle ground. So he took the journey back to share the fortune that he held, only then to find out the rain had drowned it when he left.
Thank you for watching. Really appreciate if you stuck around. It's been a while, I know, but just trying to get back into the swing of things. I've got a lot of essays to write and also to record, so hopefully you stay tuned. I want to thank all of my patrons for their continued support. Obviously can't do this without any of you. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you appreciated anything about this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Thank you.